So what do you do with a bullish trending asset making lower lows and lower highs? So this one really, I suspect, probably is being generated off of the dollar, the USD, although it could also maybe have been XLE last week and that kind of thing. But the short answer is when the signal starts to put in lower lows and lower highs, you just gross down, right? AKA you sell some, you sell some on green days, and that's about it. I mean, it's pretty simple, right? When that signal isn't signaling higher highs and making new highs and new 1 month, new 3 month highs, then you just start to gross down a little bit, right? And Keith mentioned this yesterday. He got bigger, lower, and then went on like a green day. He sold some, and that was kind of about it. And it's down to a 5% position because it's making another lower low and a lower high this morning. The dollar is. And so that signal is not, again, even though it is, the low end of the risk range is above trend, which is obviously a very positive thing. It is continuing, the price action is signaling that it is moving lower. Excuse me. The other thing that you do is that you really just kind of simply wait. You kind of wait and you watch and you wait for a couple of days to see what the signal wants to kind of do, whether it's confirming, reconfirms its sort of more bullish stance on an immediate term basis, while you also want to kind of maintain that minimum position size, right? So you want to make sure that, it's still bullish trend. And so maybe it's gone bearish trade for a minute or two, or a couple of days. But you want to make sure that you're continuing to ride that bullish trend. I mean, that is a very good thing, right? And so you want to make sure that you continue to have that exposure. When the signal confirms a higher low, preferably a couple in a row, that can be a signal that can signify an opportunity to gross back up that exposure, but execute incrementally in that instance and with patience and being prudent, right? Because you're, especially, the dollar, for instance, right? It's had many days, many weeks really of kind of signaling lower lows and lower highs. Again, as I said, it is remaining above trend, which is a very good thing. And so what we're kind of waiting for there is for it to start to put in a higher low and then kind of form a bit of a bottom, right? So, we saw it in the inverse on XLE last week, where it put in lower highs 2 days in a row. And given everything was going on in terms of the weakness in the oil price, we just absolutely booted it, right? So in this case, it's, in terms of the dollar, anyway, but in terms of incrementally adding things, I mean, 50 basis points at a day, right? Maybe in the dollar, if that's really what this example is about, you can go a little bit bigger because we can take that higher or bigger in our max position sizing. But you really want to be quite incremental there, and patience meaning kind of like, make sure you're waiting for the low end of the risk range on red days, right? So you're not kind of chasing on green, on a day like today. You're really being patient for the low end of the risk range where you can execute, take advantage of red days, so that you can kind of gross back up and again, and you can be there. So yeah. And then the other thing too, actually, sorry, just before moving on, in terms of if it starts to make higher lows, you might have to, you might be patient, you might be waiting, but then you might also have to like make an adjustment, right? You might have to sort of pay up for it and not, it's not going to get all the way down to the low end of the risk range. Now, I'm not saying that happens all the time, but you have to be conscientious of that as well, right? You can't just sit there and hoping that it's going to hit the low end of the risk range when all of a sudden it's moved and it's making higher lows, which means the price is likely kind of incrementally moving higher as well. So it might not really come all the way back down there, but if it does and it's made a number of higher lows, then you really want to make sure that you're ready for it, right? And you're taking a larger chunk of that apple at that low end of the risk range in that opportunity, right? So and if it's also signaling higher highs at the same time, that's kind of that ends up turning back into green lights. And you want to sort of make sure that you, as I said, you're executing there.